Program on the line with us is, and by the way, we've been, for the last couple of hours, we've been talking about crises and what is a crisis, and is this current crisis of the Trump presidency itself producing a sense among Americans that the crisis is as real as, for example, the Great Depression, which produced enormous progressive change, or the Vietnam War? Is it possible? And might this be the inflection point that is going to drive genuine progressive reform in the United States? Excuse me, we'll see. Meanwhile, Wendell Potter's on the line with us, former health insurance industry executive, author of Deadly Spin and Nation on the Take. He is the founder of tarbell.org, Tarbell.org, which examines the impact of money on politics on millions of Americans. WendellPotter.com, also the website, 2 L's, 2 T's. And you can tweet him at Wendell Pott, WendellPott, or tarbell.org. Hey, Wendell, welcome back to the program.
Thanks so much, Tom. How are you doing today?
Just great. I saw this article, it seems like a few weeks ago, and I've seen a number of stories around this that, and I thought of you, suggesting that the uninsured rate, the number of Americans who are lacking health insurance right now, is the highest it's been in 5 years. That what the Trump presidency has done has reversed the progress that the Affordable Care Act made at reducing uninsured rates, and instead is doing the opposite, is causing more and more people to lose their insurance. How is, first of all, is that in fact the case? And if so, how are the Trumpistas pulling this off?
Well, in a number of ways. It is correct. The number of uninsured is creeping back up, and it's gaining some speed. One reason is because the Republicans in Congress year before last repealed the penalty for remaining uninsured, and that went into effect on January the 1st. So there is no penalty now for remaining uninsured, which was in the original Affordable Care Act. That's one thing. The other is the Trump administration has not allocated any funds for advertising open enrollment, which took place at the end of last year. They've cut funding, as the Republicans in Congress have as well, too, for training navigators, the people who were funded in the early days of the first years of the Affordable Care Act, and certainly during the Obama administration.
To help you sign up, basically.
To help you sign up. So all of that has been coming together, and some people think that the Affordable Care Act has even been repealed. It's no longer in effect because of all the noise around that over years past. The other thing, though, Tom, is that I think we would see this even if Trump were not in the White House, because despite all the good the Affordable Care Act has done, it still doesn't help a lot of people, particularly those who have employer-sponsored health insurance, because employers are constantly having their workers pay more and more of the cost of the premiums and pay more out of their own pockets for health care. So a lot of people are just saying this is not a good value anymore, and they're taking the risk.
Mm-hmm. And, wow. And also, there's a big problem here that the Supreme Court blew a hole in the side of Obamacare when they said individual states can decide whether or not to expand Medicaid. Right. And now you've got states like Alabama, I believe, you would know which one's better than me, I suppose, who are saying, we're going to add work requirements. We're going to say if you don't work a certain number of hours a week, or if you don't prove that you're looking for work those hours of the week, you don't qualify for an insurance. In some states, I think it was Kentucky, maybe I'm wrong on that?
Kentucky.
Yeah, that they even shut down the website where you have to report when you look for work in the evening hours, so it's like even harder for people. And so like literally thousands of people a week are being dropped off the Medicaid rolls because they're unable to comply with these so-called work requirements.
It's absolutely true. It's actually disdain for people who don't have a lot of money. This really began in Arkansas. They had it may have been the first state that had some kind of a work requirement. Indiana followed suit pretty soon after that, and some other states. And Kentucky had one of the best exchanges, and people were signing up, and it was such a stark contrast between what was happening in Kentucky and my native state of Tennessee, which has not expanded Medicaid yet today. But unfortunately, people are having this additional hurdle to be able to get the benefits that they need in Kentucky and elsewhere. So that you're exactly right. That is another way that that people are being put back into the ranks of the uninsured.
Right. I guess the good news in all this, Wendell, is what I saw last night on CNN with Kamala Harris's town hall, and that is that a candidate who, in most other regards, would have been considered kind of a Democratic centrist, as it were, somebody who's not unwilling to take money from banksters, for example, has come out and said, Medicare for all. This is where we have to start, Medicare for all. That seems like a good sign.
Exactly. It's very, very significant that she did that. She had said previously that she supported it, but by stating that as she announced for her presidency, for her candidacy for president, I think it was very notable. In fact, most of the candidates who've been, or potential candidates who are looking at entering the race, have said that they embrace this as well, too. And Tom, as you may know, a new version of improved Medicare for all will be introduced in the House in early February. And there's also a Medicare for All caucus, a number of Democrats, mostly in the House, some in the Senate, who've signed on to support this. It's gaining momentum. And as a consequence of that, the insurance industry, the drug companies, the big for-profit hospital chains and others, they're pooling their resources to come out guns blazing against this. They've already started doing it. And I'm going to be keeping an eye on this and writing about it as we go forward.
Right. But the big question I think all Americans have to ask is, why would we take, when we're spending a couple of $1 trillion a year on health care, why would we want to take 20% off the top and hand it to 6 giant corporations so that they can give their senior employees, literally hundreds of millions of dollars in compensation? Why would we do that?
We've done it because we've have been doing something like that for a long time, and I certainly know from my years in the insurance industry, and in fact, I was a beneficiary of a lot of money that was paid to someone whose job doesn't even exist in other countries. I was head of corporate communications and the chief PR guy. In most countries, there's no need for that, obviously.
Right.
But we've been doing it for a long time. So much of our money that we pay in premiums goes into the pockets of health insurance company executives, into the pockets of shareholders of insurance companies and drug companies and hospital companies and medical device manufacturers and a lot of other middlemen in their system.
Yeah, this is like peak Reaganism. Privatize everything.
Yeah,
have everything
exactly.
run on the profit motive.
And we're seeing what the consequences are. It's been held out as something that would be more efficient, but it's the opposite of that. It has gotten us to the point of market failure. And I think more and more people are realizing that the free market just does not work in healthcare.
Yeah, absolutely. We're talking with Wendell Potter, the former health insurance industry executive, the author of Deadly Spin and Nation on the Take, the founder of tarbell.org, wendellpotter.com, the website. Wendell, what's Tarbell up to these days?
Well, we've hired a managing editor, by the way. So we're growing, we're moving forward. Dina Razor is our new managing editor. Mm-hmm. We're broadening our coverage to look at the environmental issues and the military-industrial complex. We're going to be looking, some of our next stories, Tom, we're going to be looking at the kind of related to the first part of our conversation about the Democrats that are taking money from healthcare special interests, in particular the Democrats that are serving on key committees and are chairing key committees in the House, because that'll be something important to know as we have hearings in Congress on Medicare for all, whether or not they actually move forward with it.
Great stuff. Wendell Potter, check it out. Wendell, thank you so much for dropping by today.
My pleasure, Tom. Thank you very much.
And keep up the great work. You're doing God's work there. Wendell Potter. We'll be back with our ongoing conversation that we've picking up from the last 2 hours about what kind of crisis are we facing in the United States right now. I mean, people are going to die from this global warming-induced freeze we've got.